afternoon, everybody. It's your last main stage session before we wrap up for the day. I want to introduce myself for those that haven't met me yet. My name is Angela, and I like VBS. No, I love VBS. Like you guys, I'm all in. This is my 9th year directing VBS, my 8th year using the Answers in Genesis curriculum. We started with 80 kids in my very first VBS. This last summer, we did 286, okay? And I run a crew of about 125 volunteers. So it's a lot. So you're in the session involving your whole church in VBS. So if you're not here for that, I'm sorry, but this will be the best, okay? The goal is for you to walk away from the session with at least one idea, one goal, or one action plan where you can involve more than who you already have involved in your VBS. So before we begin, let's take a quick moment to thank God what He did here today, because it has been amazing. Dear Jesus, thank you for today. Today was a great day of meeting new friends, sharing ideas, and collaborating with people from across the country. Lord, help us finish today strong. Let us keep in mind that our goal is to share the gospel with as many people as we can, young and old and everybody in between. Lord, please give us wisdom as we approach this last session, and that you will give everybody here renewed vigor and a new passion for what they are about to do this next year. In your name we pray, amen. I'm going to warn you, I have notes. I'm going to try not to read them word for word, but they do keep me on track because, again, I kind of rabbit trail all over the world. So let's answer the question, how do you involve your whole church in VBS? Answer, you give them opportunities. All right, I'm done, right? Like, I could leave now. But wait, it's not that easy, right? Like, how do you accomplish that? Well, I think we can all agree that VBS is sharing the gospel with others. That's my why of VBS. Whatever you want to call it, it is my mission statement. My mission statement is to share the hope of the gospel with children and their families. It's in everything I do. Everything I create points back to that mission statement. Why? Because Mark 15:16 says, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." Not just young, not just old, it's all creation. As Christians, we know that is the Great Commission, but so many people struggle to see what that looks like in your daily lives. Like, there's so many people, and you might know some of them, you might be one of them, that every day you pray for that opportunity to share the gospel with one person. That maybe you meet that barista or that, other parent at the kids' soccer game that you could just share this hope with. But you don't know what that looks like, because every day that's not there. And then all of a sudden, here I come. I sit and I talk about milk jug igloos. I talk about ziggurats and time machines. And here I am telling everybody, you can share the hope of the gospel with me at VBS. I'm going to hand deliver this opportunity to you. You just need to grab it. So let's talk first about those that help before, during, and after VBS. You and I might call them volunteers. And we're always so desperate for them, aren't we? Like, oh, please, I need you to volunteer. I am 50 people short of what I need, right? So how does that look like? Well, one of the things that I have found out is that everybody wants to help you. They all want to be part of it. They all want that opportunity to share the gospel with somebody, but they don't know how to do it. In my church, what I do is I create job descriptions for every position. I want people to know what they will be doing, and I want them to know how that will make an impact. So my job description might be for somebody that holds that door open. Hi, welcome to our church for VBS. What is that job description? Well, you hold the door open and welcome people. How does that help further the gospel? Well, to visiting families, they now know how welcoming your church is. They now know what that hope of that gospel looks like lived out. And to that door holder, I have just told them why that position is valuable, why I need them. It's not just holding the door open. They have automatic sensors for some people. But for me, I want that person saying, hi, welcome. Welcome to our church. Now, I also believe that people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Again, they want to know that they make an impact. So I look at things very differently than I used to. I used to think, oh, I could quickly get that done. That's so easy. Or what about that task that you think, oh, this is a really cruddy task. I don't know anybody who would want to do that, so I'll just take that on myself. But let me ask you this. Even though I can do it, should I do it? And at what cost is, by me doing it, I'm taking away the value of somebody else? I'm not going to lie. VBS is huge, right? Like, huge. The more children you have at your VBS, the bigger it is, and all some potential volunteers see is work. They think, oh, that's so overwhelming. Well, what if you broke up the tasks a little? So they don't see how welcoming 100 kids into your church will look like. Welcoming 200, 300, 400 kids. This year I'm talking, we're going to hit 350 kids. If you don't know me at my VBS, that's heart-stopping. That's like, how on earth is that going to happen? Well, I break up the tasks. So let's take, for example, craft prep nights, right? Like, again, it's great. You make crafts for 300 kids, get them all ready so the day of y'all know this, right? But one day, I thought, boy, I have those prep nights. I have a lot of prep days. I like to feed my volunteers. I said earlier today, I use food as a currency because I can't afford to pay for them, but I can get something made. I needed a volunteer care coordinator because for me, on those craft prep days or nights or volunteer meetings, I have all I can do to make sure I got the handouts, the things set up, ready for them to work. If they're lucky, and I mean really lucky at my church, and if I'm in charge, they're going to get whatever was left over from fellowship on Sunday set out for them, maybe replated, maybe not. Donna, I need somebody to be in charge of that. I need somebody whose sole job it is to organize my volunteer care coordinator for foods, for snacks. Make sure that VBS room is stocked during the week so I don't have to remember to pick up that case of water when it's 100 degrees. But for one person, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask. So you know who I contacted at my church? I asked a lady named Janet. Janet's older. She knows everybody. Janet called Shirley. Shirley can't really leave the house except for Sundays. She's mobility challenged, older, in her 80s. Shirley, we all know, makes the best chocolate chip cookies. Okay, you all have that, right? That one person that makes the best scotch or rhubarb chocolate chip cookies. Janet calls her, Shirley, I need 5 dozen chocolate chip cookies for a craft day at VBS. Oh, I would just love to do that. Now, Shirley had no intention of volunteering for VBS. She physically can't do it. But look at how her contribution helps everybody else at VBS. They all love her. So just by breaking up those tasks, thinking about it a little differently, you could ask somebody who would otherwise not have value, not feel significant for helping with VBS, included. That is key in my opinion. The more people I can, let's call it roped in to help me out, that's what I do. Now, sometimes you need to ask yourself, who am I excluding by not asking them? Remember, even if you view this task, this challenge, or whatever you're dealing with as trivial, somebody might need that in their lives. Now, we all have those people at church, right? Like, hey, come help me with VBS. Oh, I don't like kids, right? Don't ask me, don't like kids. They're kind of loud. Okay, great. But those people are still in support of sharing the gospel message. That's what they strive for. Here's a couple of examples of how I've done it in my church. Again, go with the belief everybody wants to help. It's my job as the VBS director to find a way that they can help and what value that brings. So let's look for a moment at seniors. Now, it's a long list, okay? But they can do any type of the prep work for crafts or lesson time, okay? Let's face it, they love to fellowship. They can sit and stuff baggies, sit and talk about where they're going for dinner, all that kind of stuff. They can set up the classrooms with papers and materials. If you have a retired teacher in your congregation, this is something that they love to do because this is what they grew up doing, and they know the value of helping prepare that teacher, making the teacher's job just slightly easier when they walk in to that room full of kids. Making treats for volunteers, I already said food is a currency in my church. Prayer team. If they can't leave the house, they are your prayer warriors. Now, what about writing handwritten notes to your volunteers? Notes of encouragement. We're praying for you. Never underestimate the value of a handwritten note signed by a real person. Now, what about writing notes to children attending? So glad you came. Have a great week. We're praying for you. That's unbelievably treasured by those kids. Welcoming people, being a greeter every day. They don't need to be there the whole time. Just be there to say, hey, welcome, glad you're here. And what about those seniors that know your church like the back of their hands? Maybe they grew up in your church. You know what? Having them those first couple days as you have new people coming into your church, pointing people where to go, that helps you because you don't need to be that person, but it also helps your guests who are arriving that they're not nearly as confused and it's more organized to them. Let me tell you the story about John and Donna. John and Donna at the time were new to our church. They came to my first craft prep night one year. They had so much fun. They were retired Bible translation missionaries. They came, they're like, oh, Angela, this is so much fun. When are you doing it next year? Every year, they're the first person to ask. This past year, during Zoomerang, they came up to me and said, Angela, when's your prep night? I said, well, it's not at night this year, it's during the day. Oh, darn, we have Bible study. But you know what? We love coming here and helping so much. We are bringing our entire Bible study. And we're going to sit at the table, and you just tell us what to do. We're a bunch of old people. We just want to talk anyway. Problem solved for me, problem solved for them. It's a win-win. So I have that core group. All you need to do is find one or two people that love to volunteer, that you love on, make them feel valued and appreciated, and they'll recruit for you. You may not think about that. You may not think that volunteers will recruit other volunteers. They don't want to do things alone. Let's talk about men. Now, admittedly, sometimes they are the ones that have such a hard time seeing where they fit in at VBS because so often Sunday school teachers are women. So what I do when I first put out the plea to the congregation, because I get up a couple times during the year to say, hey, come help, I point out the men. I say, men, I need you. We are an outreach. We want so many people to come in from the community into our church to experience this. So many people in the community, their fathers either work long hours, maybe they work third shift, maybe they're not even there. The power of having a man present does so much for these kids. And a lot of times the men are like, I never thought I was that needed in that capacity. So when you point things out like that to the men to show them where they're needed and how they're valued, you'd be amazed at the people that come up to you, people that you never would have thought. So with men, let's do the obvious. Setup and construction, right? Because for setup nights, I need a guy that can be on a ladder, because I can't have a teen be on a ladder. Are you kidding? That's a lot of paperwork if that goes wrong. So I always have them, at least one or two there for that. I'm going to talk about construction for a minute, because guys don't always see that. They don't always see what's needed or the vision. So the year was Operation Arctic. I made this little information booth. I just wanted something. It's made out of pallets and some whitewash stuff. And I needed something just to put a table inside of. I wanted something to stand out in my foyer, in my church, that said something amazing is going to happen. After I did that this year, I said, hey, I'm getting ready for the next year. I had a crew of people come up and say, we want to help construct the information booth. So it was Operation Arctic the next year. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I found a brilliant find on the end cuts of wood. I'm like, at the sawmill, they make the 2x4s or 2x6s or whatever, the end cut with the rough cut. So I had a lot of that. Had a group of guys show up with their tools. It was great. Then all of a sudden, I turned away for 10 minutes. I said, I need something to fit the table in. This is what I came back to. That stood out, okay? They were like, oh my gosh. They came up, I wanted something like that. And they came up with this, all right? And there were a fair amount of people figuring this out. Then that caught on, and they're like, this is amazing. And at our church, on our stage, we have an old-fashioned pipe organ. And because we have 3 stairs to our stage when they built it, they could put in a ramp or an elevator. So every year I got to hide a stinking elevator in my set. They repurposed that. This is the crew that built it. And then they repurposed it up on stage. I highlighted the guy smiling because he never smiles, okay? He's that guy in your church. Yep, that'll work. Yep, I could do that. No, he was like all in on this thing. And then this is what it looked like for a final product. I had one guy, because men know people, I had one guy say, you know what that needs? That needs a big old pipe stack. I got one of those in my barn. Great. Now, I had a 3-foot pipe stack sticking up there. This is what it looked like once the decorator kind of got all done. Here's the funny thing that happened with that. That crew of guys that's all like, yep, I could do that. They were the first ones taking the pictures of it, bringing their other family members. Hey, I did this, or this came from over there. They took such pride in their work. It was amazing. And again, all I asked for was something to stick a table in. So never underestimate the power of including 1 or 2 people, letting them do their thing. But let's get back to men. Resources, they know people, okay? If you have a dream, okay, and I told this in one of my sessions, if you have a dream of a DeLorean being at your VBS, mention it to somebody, because you never know who they know, and next thing you know, you got a DeLorean for a photo prop. So again, we think, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'll never get that. How do you know? How do you know who God's going to put in your path to provide it? I know it's silly. A DeLorean at VBS, what does that have to do with God? You know what? Everybody talked about it. Everybody talked about VBS, and everybody talked about how we were the church to go to. We talked about prep nights. Talk about teaching. I'll get back to a story about teaching, because I got a great story about teaching. Let's talk about the welcoming team. Nothing better than one of the big burly guys. Hey, welcome, a little bit friendly, not so scary. Perfect. We have a safety team at our church. That's important. Guys are great at that. They love to sit around. Usually, the safety team's first job in the morning is to make sure the coffee and donuts are edible for the rest of us. They take that job very seriously. So, we talked about that, and we talked about team guides. Now let's talk about teens in general. I have a whole thing about teens. At our church, we have a teen decorating night. Usually it's the Wednesday night after their youth group gets done. We buy pizza, they like to be fed, they like to run around the church and be scary, so it's all fun. game helpers, snack helpers, worship and drama team, the tech team, okay? You know how sometimes you can't really find somebody to run a booth or go around and video stuff? Hate to tell you this, but the kids really know how to work an iPhone. So that's awesome. Greeting the children as they arrive. At my VBS, what happens is they come, and all of our drama and worship kids high-five the kids. You know, like, it's really exciting to come to VBS. We want you here. High five, high five, high five. Well, one day, as VBS directors do, have you invite children, your friends, to VBS tomorrow, right? Come invite your friends. We're having so much fun. You're having fun. We want to have fun with them. A little girl named Morgan came in the next day with a card. She gave it to Dane, who was on the worship team. On the card was a picture of Dane and Morgan playing a game. On the inside of the card, it read, "Dane, you are my only friend at VBS." Think for a moment the impact a teen can have on a person. Again, they're doing what they're doing. They're doing the hand motions. They're high-fiving kids. They're having a great time. They don't realize how impactful they can be. So don't discount your teens, but right place at the right moment is amazing. The one thing that I do want to touch upon is that in our church, we do have some teens that have some special needs. And we are very strict on the ages that the kids can attend our VBS. Despite how developmentally they are, this is the age that we go from to and from. Those teens, I urge the parents to sign them up as volunteers. We have several paraprofessionals in our church that work with special needs kids during the school year. We pair them up one-on-one, usually in the snack area or one of the prep areas, kind of away from the chaos. Don't think that they can't be involved. You just need to work with them and find their needs and find out how they can feel valued. Because when this people group feels valued, it will warm your heart. So always be thinking about how I can include everybody. Let's see, next page. Sometimes we need to have the best fit, okay? Sometimes it's square peg and round hole, right? You have that volunteer that's ready to go, and they say, I am so good at this. Then you put them in that role, and you realize that may not be your calling, okay? So you always find out how it's going, be able to rearrange, and just be flexible with that. If you see somebody struggling, help them out. Don't be afraid to go to them and say, how can I help make this the best fit for you? It may be they're stuck there all week because you have nobody else, but you can encourage them and pray for them daily. And that alone can make or break someone's volunteer experience. But if they know they're not alone and they know they're being prayed for, it's amazing how they can come back. I'm going to tell you the story about my friend Chris. Chris, her first year with me, she goes, I want to help with VBS, but I don't like kids. Do you have anything? Why? Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. She was my volunteer care coordinator. She went above and beyond. We had themed days of snacks, okay? It was amazing. At the end of the week, I said, how'd it go? And she goes, oh, I hated it. I'm like, but you were good. No, that was not me at all. And I said, what can we do? Let's hold on to next year. So last year came around. About a month before, I had the craft lady come into me and said, I need 1,000 tongue dispensers. I need 500 crayons. Then I had the teacher come up to me. I need this. I had the science lady, right? You all know what I mean. You have all these inundations. She's going to be my procurement person. So I said, hey, Chris, how about finding me these things? How about researching where I need to buy them, get it all ready, and I'll pay for it. No big deal. She goes, okay, I can do that. That sounds okay. By the end of my VBS, she comes up to me and she goes, okay, that was great, and next year I want to do this. Look at that. I just now roped her in for another year. She had a great time. I took something off of my plate. It was a win-win for everybody. So just because 1 year it's not the right fit, encourage them to try again, because there's always something to do at VBS. Always. And then, you know what? One less thing I have to do, which I like. So the other thing is, ask yourself if there's an area that needs to be broken up. Now, I have a teacher. He is a brilliant teacher. Like, brilliant. Kids adore him. He relates like nobody else. He is also the one, 5 minutes past his start time, is copying off his lessons. Okay? Like, I like to plan a little bit further in advance than he likes to. But he is so good. I don't want to lose him just because he's unorganized. Enter in Ashley. Ashley is like me, type A. She needs to have all of her ducks in a row weeks in advance, just in case you need to rearrange things. Ashley is now his assistant teacher. Ashley makes sure he is prepared. He has everything he needs, so he can just walk in and teach. Now, they both now have a vested interest in making their area awesome. And both of them find value in their work. We took that stressor point from, the male teacher, the unorganized one, because he knows he's not organized. I mean, let's face it, those that are unorganized kind of know they're not organized. But we took that away from him so he could focus on what he likes to do. We can, now over here with Ashley, we can make sure Ashley feels uplifted in keeping him organized. So that is a win-win. And I didn't think to break that up. But you know what? That works wonderfully. Okay, I talk about not asking people to do things that they're not spiritually gifted at. Sometimes, again, you're in the middle of VBS and cannot change things up. You just can't. There's no time. But what you can do is pray for them. Pray for them with them. Pray for them outside of them. Tell your prayer team about them. You want them to feel uplifted, as encouraged as you can, and you want to remind them, even though this is hard, even though this isn't exactly what you pictured, you are still making a difference. You are still contributing to the why we do VBS, and you're vital you're here, because you need them to show up for 4 more days. Okay, trust me, I've been there more often than not. So that covers our volunteer base, pretty much, right? Like, before, after, talked a lot about people. Let's talk about other areas, okay? How else can you involve other people at for your VBS in your church? I'm going to share with you some things that I do at my church. It may or may not work at yours, okay? A few of them are pretty bold. As my husband says, I can't believe you get that done, but yet I do. One of the first things that I ask is, as soon as I know the VBS theme, I ask my pastor to preach about it. And this is the I can't believe you get that done from my husband. But what happened is, one year during Operation Arctic, we had a big scene thing going behind, and the pastor had other illustrations, and there was such a disconnect from what he was preaching to what was behind him. Then the light bulb went on, and I thought, you know what? Why can't he preach on the VBS topic? And the reason he can is because the Answers curriculum is sound. There is so much material. He could do an 8-week series if he wanted to. He won't, but he could. Okay, so what we do is we have bookends, okay, the week before and the week after your VBS. What that does is that sets the tone for everybody, whether they're coming to VBS or not, what VBS is going to be about. On the back end, when we invite everybody to church, it's everything that the kids have already heard and they've been hopefully talking about during the week with their kids. And it's continual, okay? That is incredible. I love that, because now people say, hey, what did you learn in VBS? And they can talk to anybody in the church, and they now know. The other thing we do at our church, sorry, I get excited. Okay, we do a closing event. So those that were in my previous ones, we start our VBS on Sunday night, and then we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning, and Thursday night we have a closing event. That is my gift to the volunteers. It's an outreach event. Like I said, 286 kids. Our closing event, we invite the community and their families. And last year, we had right around 500 to 600 people there. We provide meals. We have inflatables. We have the worship team come and play. It's just a night of just incredible rejoicing. We don't have a pre-structured program. I know some people will have that big closing event. The kids will come up and do songs. We don't do that. This is just a very laid-back night. Now, I have an entire team that loves to serve food. Usually it's the funeral ladies that like to do they're more than happy to come and serve food on this night. Last year, I bought the pork for our pulled pork sandwiches from a farmer in our church who has nothing to do with VBS, but now he's involved. I have a cleanup crew because you know what? Having it at night on a Thursday, those that say, oh, I have to work. Oh, darn, I can't possibly help. Ha! I got you covered. Come Thursday night. You can come help. I have the worship team there because normally they don't participate in VBS. They come out and perform music, and now all of those families that are coming, they get a taste for what our Sunday morning worship might look like. During that time while the worship band's out, they might take a break. I plug in the VBS music. Always, without fail, right in front of the stage. I'll have probably 30, 40 kids coming up doing the hand motions. And then I'll look out, and I'll see all the volunteers doing the hand motions with their families. It is such an incredible night. But it brings me a whole different volunteer base, a whole different opportunity for people to be involved in VBS that aren't there during the programming hours. So again, just one extra way to involve some other people that you may not normally think of in your VBS. So, talked about that. Bear with me. Okay, talked about music. We involve that. Missions. Okay, we have a mission offering during VBS, like many of you. We are a very mission-driven church, so we choose one of our own missionaries. Now, put a pin in that. I'm going to talk about our local restaurant, Culver's. I don't know if you guys have Culver's, but where I'm from, we do. They have a program called Culver's Cares. If you go there and you help out on a weeknight and you advertise it and have a booth, an information booth, they will give a percentage of the profits to your nonprofit organization. It's a way for them to give it back. This last year, I did that with my missionary. We called it Mission Monday. And keep in mind, Sunday and Monday, kids have already heard about the promo. Our missionary's name was Mary, okay? Mary the missionary, kind of worked out well. So she came to Culver's and sat up a little table with her mission wares. People could come and ask her questions. What we found was this was a gold mine of wins for us. Not only did people come to just eat, but they got to say, hey, why are all these people here? Why are they all wearing VBS shirts? What's this all about? People from our church who don't or can't be involved in VBS in any other way came out to that restaurant to support the missions lady and got to see the impact we were having with all the people there. Now, bonus from a director's standpoint, I got to put up signage in Culver's for a week ahead of time advertising our VBS, and you can be darn sure it had a QR code to register your kid at VBS. Okay? So think about, like, that's not only involving our whole church, that's our church going into the community. Saying all these opportunities that are just waiting there for people to grab. This year, I chose my missionary on what one was going to be in town during our week of VBS. Doesn't hurt that it's a husband-wife team and the wife is from Ireland. So the whole accent thing, when the whole, Keepers of the Kingdom, castle theme, that's going to go really, really well because I like when things match up. So I talked about kids wearing the shirts. People know us in our community by that. I have people in our church come up and said, I was at Walmart this afternoon. I must have saw 20 people in their shirts. Yeah, come volunteer at VBS and you'll see what it's like. You'll get to know what it's like to be here at that moment. Mary also, her feedback. I said, hey, what'd you think of that? How'd that go? You know what she said? She felt like a rock star because all the kids wanted to hear about her mission. That, to me, is priceless. When a missionary has young people wanting to hear about it and hearing about how they share the gospel with others. Let's talk about prayer and worship night. So I call this the calm before the storm. Again, my VBS starts on a Sunday night. So Saturday night at 6 p.m., that is my stop decorating, stop everything time. Everything has to be done by Saturday at 6 p.m. because I have a prayer and worship night. It's my time to pause, give thanks for everything God has brought me through, let's face it, all the tears I've cried up until that point. And then it's my time to say, God, whatever you're going to do, whatever lives you're going to impact, whoever you bring to me, it's all for you. I commit this to you because I cannot do it anymore. On my prayer night, I invite the entire church to come out. We also have our worship team playing. And all we do is sit and pray. So those people that can't attend VBS because maybe they work or they can't, they will come out to prayer night. Maybe those seniors who can't get around for their, because of health limitations, they can come out to prayer night. They can be involved. They can see the excitement that's going on in the church. That, to me, is an unbelievably easy way, a needed way for us to involve more people in VBS. Now, last year, I got in front of my church. Culver's is a big deal in my town. I got in front of my church, and I challenge you guys to do this, but be prepared with answers. I said, if you have a skill or a talent that I cannot use in VBS, I will buy you lunch. Now, think about all the things we need. People are going to think, what do I have that she can't use? But then the other side of that question is, look at all the stuff that I have that she can use. So challenge your people with that question, because that will get them thinking. That will get them thinking introspectively on how they can be involved. By the way, nobody ever took me up on that. I was disappointed because I'm like, I could have an hour and a half with them to talk all about VBS. I mean, that's a win-win for me, right? Either get help or, but nobody took me up. I have people in my church 3 weeks ago came up to me and said, Angela, older man, I can't go with the kids. Can I still help with VBS? Is there anything I can do? My VBS isn't until June. But God laid it on his heart to help me now. Okay? I have people that take off weeks of work because they want to be involved. And this may be something you grow into. This may not be a year one thing. But I'm going to encourage you, do not give up. Because what you do this year is laying the foundation for the next year, and then the next year after that. So it builds on itself. But having people feel valued and how their contributions tie into your big theme is perfect. So, in closing, ask yourself, what am I or other volunteers doing that we could include more people on? Okay? So, the craft prep night. Why do I involve the craft prep nights, okay? Because there's a lot of work. Can the craft lady have her family and her kids do that at home? Oh, absolutely. But I could have a little brownies. Maybe I have 5, 6 people that show up that wouldn't normally come. Great, I've included more people. Keep in mind, the craft lady and her family, that's still plan B. I mean, don't shoot that messenger yet, because you may need them. Do I have a clear vision I can easily communicate to others about VBS? With mine, it is to share the hope of the gospel to children and their families. Everything I do is about that. You ask me why I should be involved in VBS? Because we're sharing the gospel. That's what we're doing. Do you have that you can easily say, that you can commit to memory, so when someone asks you why you should help, that passion just oozes out of you, and they know it. They know that they're needed and they're going to do something amazing. Finally, do I effectively communicate all the opportunities I have available to help with VBS? Now, this one I struggled with for a lot of years. I am pretty much shameless, okay? People know me now. If I'm walking around church and I have a pen in my hand and I have a piece of paper and I'm eyeing somebody as they're walking by, they know, okay? It doesn't matter if VBS got over 2 weeks ago, they know I'm going to talk to them about VBS. But sometimes we think if I get up in front of the congregation and say, come help me, and then I do nothing else, that's going to get the job done. Nope, people need to be asked. You know, they want to be asked. They want to know you really mean them, that you're not just blanketing, oh, come help me move. Well, nobody's going to say no, yes to that. But if you say, I need someone to pack dishes. Oh, I could pack dishes. I don't want to help boxes, but I can just pack dishes. So always think about ways you can communicate what you need them to do, ways you can other than standing up. Maybe you have a church email blast. Can you put out something there? And instead of putting out, I need you to come and help me with VBS, what about, I need 3 teachers? I don't need all. I just need 3 teachers this week. And you put it specific numbers, so then that way people know that you're not asking, you're asking for specific things. They know what they'll be doing. Now the following week, you can sure put in, I need a games person, but make it specific and make it other angles. Because some people, let's face it, we go into church, you make an announcement, you may or not be listening. You may be flipping through things, telling the kids, shh, it's almost starting, you need to put that away, keep your foot off the pew, all that stuff. So they might not get it at that point. They might not get it when you read it. They might not get it in an email. Sometimes what it may take is if you have a teacher and you need 3 more teachers, ask that teacher do they know people? Does that games guy know people? Does the youth pastor know people that you could peg? So there's so many different ways that you could incorporate people, but just make sure you don't just think one way is the only way to communicate, because there's lots of different ways to ask people. I do want to encourage you as a leader or director in VBS this year. Remember, you were chosen for this, okay? And it's hard. I've cried many tears over my lack of volunteers. I have, even this coming year, there will be times I will set up a craft night, and it's just me and the craft lady. But that's what God's plan was for that night. I have a friend named Sharon. Sharon, one year, came to a craft night. Her husband had died 4 weeks beforehand. She had been alone in her house, not going out, didn't know what to do with herself. She read I was having a craft night. She decided, I'm going to come and have a craft prep night. I'm going to go and hang out. She came. After her time there, she came up to me as we were leaving. She goes, can you pray with me? I said, yes. I mean, who's going to say no? Yes, I'll pray with you. So we prayed. Tears in her eyes, and she said, Angela, I haven't left the house in 4 weeks. I came here tonight, and I had 3 offers for lunch this next week. What you do, how you value your volunteers is just as important. You can make just as big, if not bigger, impact to them than the kids at VBS. So by opening things up, involving as many people as you can, break down tasks. You need something so minutely, I have somebody whose job it is on Sunday, before Sunday night comes, their entire job. I need you to take all the Bibles out of the pews. Because let's face it, we're going to get a herd of puppies in here and they'll be destroyed. So I need somebody just to do that. And they know why that's important. So I encourage you to think about that as you go from here. I hope I've given you some ideas. I think we have some giveaways, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, what do we have? This is the verse. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, he will establish your plans. Remember, he will establish. I can plan, but I need help. All right. Well, just because I would be remiss if I'm not up here saying how to be involved in your church, my VBS is June 11th through the 15th. You are all invited to come and volunteer at mine. Okay? So thank you guys for this opportunity. I will be around if you have any other questions.